The Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs dispatches 3 truckloads of foodstuffs to Zamfara State. Over 40 health workers have been tested positive in Nigeria. Northern and Southwest broadcasting stations threaten to shut down. On business, oil price drops to $21 on lack of demand. And on the international scene, Friday marks the first day of Ramadan. Hello viewers, welcome to Svtv News. I am Musa Joy Onyuyoza. The Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development says it has dispatched 3 truckloads of rice for distribution to the vulnerable in Zamfara State as part of the COVID-19 federal government palliatives to the state. This was exclusively disclosed to the Standard Voice Television, Gusau, by the coordinator of the distribution of the palliative of the ministry, Madam Nadia Soso, in an interview with a correspondent of the Svtv. Madam Soso stated that each trailer load of the commodity comprised 600 bags of rice and that each state of the Federation will receive equal number of trucks except Abuja, Lagos, Kano and Osun State, which have higher cases of the COVID-19 virus spread. The coordinator further said that the Zamfara State share of the palliative has already been loaded on the trucks this Friday and that the trucks had departed Mina, Niger State for Zamfara State. She said on arrival, the commodity will be handed over to the state governor for onward distribution to the beneficiaries. The Zamfara State government has reiterated its determination to contain the spread of coronavirus pandemic and mitigate its dreadful impact. The state governor, Dr. Bello Matawale Marado, renewed the pledge yesterday in a special broadcast to the people. The governor said despite the sustained effort by both the federal and state government, the virus is gradually gaining ground in many states of the Federation. He said all over the world, palliative measures have been taken in places where the virus has already infected people in order to contain the disease and avoid further spread. He said the state government is currently taking precautionary measures to protect the public against the virus. Governor Matawale said COVID-19 is not just a medical challenge, but a monumental economic one, pointing out that the international financial institutions have already predicted a global economic depression, which has not been seen since the Great Depression of the 1930s. He said there is also a growing uncertainty as medical experts are at a loss on how to overcome the devastation of the virus. He said the only formidable means of containing the virus as prescribed by the World Health Organization are social distancing, use of face masks, and constant and continued hand washing, which are also not contrary to the teachings of Islam.
In view of this alarming development, we find it extremely necessary to intensify the measures already put in place to ensure public safety. We are dealing with one of the worst existential challenges in our recent history. We are determined to do all that is required within our means to ensure that our state remains free of the virus.
The governor noted that even though no index case has been recorded in Zamfara State, incidents of the virus have been confirmed in the neighboring states, including Sokoto, Katsina, and Kano State. In view of this alarming development, they find it extremely necessary to intensify the measures already put in place to ensure public safety. The governor said the country is now dealing with one of the worst existential challenges in our recent history. The governor assured of his administration's determination to do all that is required to ensure that the state remains free of the virus. Governor Matawale expressed concern that the virus has reached the frontiers of the neighboring state, and this underscores the need to intensify measures to secure the state and protect the people. The governor explained that it was against this background that the government determined to take decisive measures to secure the borders. He warned that all violators, no matter how highly placed, will be sanctioned. The governor urged the entire people of Zamfara State to exercise restraint and comply with the order, as this measure is necessary for the safety of our lives.
I ask the entire people of Zamfara State to exercise restraint and comply with the order, as this measure is necessary for the safety of our lives. On this note, I wish to echo the calls by different world Islamic organizations and the leadership that all faithful shall observe their Tarawih and Tahajjud during the month of Ramadan at home.
The Minister of Health, Dr. Osagi Ehanire, says over 40 health workers have been tested positive for the coronavirus disease in Nigeria. He disclosed this during the PTF Presidential Task Force Daily Media Briefing on COVID-19, which was held on Thursday. The minister appealed to those in the front line of the COVID-19 fight to always protect themselves while giving treatment to patients. He said the government will continue to provide the necessary personal protective equipment for health workers, but that they must remain vigilant. He enjoined medical personnel to desist from treating patients without using adequate PPE. The minister advised that frontline workers must undertake refresher trainings in IPC at intervals. This advice is necessary due to the number of health workers that have been tested positive for coronavirus. The minister said many other health workers have had to be quarantined in the past week due to exposure and are unable to join the health sector's effort to fight the coronavirus disease as a result. The minister urged the medical personnel to remain vigilant in the line of duty and maintain a high index of suspicion. He disclosed that the government has tested 9,522 samples since Nigeria's index case was detected in February. President Muhammadu Buhari has been appointed a champion of COVID-19 response by presidents under the Economic Community of West African States. Buhari's personal assistant on new media, Bashir Ahmed, made the announcement on his Twitter handle. Ahmed wrote, President of West African countries under the aegis of ECOWAS authorities of heads of state and government have appointed President Muhammadu Buhari as champion of the COVID-19 response. Operating under harsh economic conditions necessitated by coronavirus pandemic in Nigeria, broadcasting stations in 2 geopolitical zones in the country on Thursday threatened to shut down. They include Northern Private Broadcast Station and broadcast stations in the Southwest. In separate press statements, they said the situations in the 2 zones have no option than to shut down due to the low incomes, except urgent action is taken to salvage the situation. A statement signed by the chairman of Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria, Zone C, Festus Kende, says the economic downturn and low revenue generation occasioned by the total lockdown as a result of COVID-19 pandemic ravaging the world has created a financial cul-de-sac for broadcast stations in the Southwest, which may necessitate a shutdown of operations if urgent actions are not taken. As a result of the lockdown, the stream of income of broadcast stations have been stifled, with most companies who are also experiencing a dire strait halting the flow of commercials, the blood that runs the stations. He pointed out that the broadcast stations, apart from contributing substantially to the nation's GDP, is also a huge employer of labor. As the nation is battling the COVID-19 pandemic, he said the strategic importance of the broadcast industry cannot be overemphasized as a potent agent of advocacy across the nooks and crannies of the country. He added that the shutdown of broadcast media in the Southwest will spell doom to the advocacy effort of government and unleash a large number of youth on the unemployment market. The consequences of such a shutdown of radio and television houses are better imagined than experienced. Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria Zone C, however, calls on governors and government of the Southwest, the governors of the North, the leadership of Nigerian Center for Disease Control, members of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, and the Central Bank of Nigeria to put issues of how to sustain the broadcast industry in the front burner and factor the broadcast industry into the stimulus package being contemplated. The statement by the Northern Private Broadcast Station, signed by Dr. Ahmed Tijani Ramalan, for Northern Broadcast Media Owners Association, said hard hit by low-income generation as a result of the current economic downturn and exacerbated by the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic that has paralyzed businesses across the world and indeed Nigeria. Private-owned broadcast stations in northern Nigeria have reached a point where their operations may completely shut down anytime soon unless a quick intervention comes to their rescue. The shutdown, he said, may affect about 40 radio and television stations spread across the northeast, northwest, and north central, who collectively employ about 40,000 personnel in diverse fields such as engineering, journalism, administration, and marketing. According to him, the broadcast stations under the umbrella of the Northern Broadcast Media Owners Association, formed in 2014, have a combined audience base in excess of 80 million, about 85% of the population of northern Nigeria. Vice President Yemi Osibanjo has held a virtual conference with 8 governors from the geopolitical zones on how to harmonize federal and state government response to COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. Laolu Akande, Senior Special Assistant to the Vice President of Media and Publicity, disclosed this via a Twitter handle on Thursday in Abuja. Mr. Akande said that the video conference was held on Wednesday. Late last night, Osibanjo held a video conference with 8 governors from the geopolitical zones on how to coordinate the plans of the state with those of the federal government on management of the COVID-19 pandemic. Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Finance and Health Minister also participated in the meeting. The Vice President heads the Economic Sustainability Committee set up by President Muhammadu Buhari to address the economic fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic. News Agency of Nigeria reported that Osibanjo on April 21st met with representatives of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank as Nigeria continues to improve on its economic stimulus packages for its citizens. The ESC and the committee have been collaborating with domestic sectors of the Nigerian economy, and now the Vice President is interfacing with international agencies for the purpose of rolling out options as President has directed. He said Buhari's plan is to turn the current economic challenges to an opportunity for Nigerians, especially the common man. The federal government has presented food consignment as a palliative to the Kebbi state government. Governor Atiku Bagudu of Kebbi State made this known in a statement signed by his special advisor on media, Malam Yahya Sarki in Breni, Kebbi, on Thursday. The federal government has delivered 3 truckloads of food items to the state comprising of 2,262 bags of 50 kg rice, oil, and sugar. Also, the Minister for Humanitarian Services, Hajia Sadia Umar, will visit Kebbi to disburse the conditional cash transfer to vulnerable persons on behalf of the federal government. Governor Bagudu commended President Muhammadu Buhari for providing succor to the vulnerable. He also commended the federal government effort towards containing the spread of the coronavirus pandemic in the country. The governor also commended the State Task Force Committee on COVID-19 for their effort towards containing the spread of the virus. The state government, he said, will concretize its task force operation for desired results. The governor also commended traditional rulers, religious leaders, security services, media, labor unions, drivers' union, vehicle owners, women, and youth groups for their cooperation to the administration in checking the spread of the coronavirus pandemic in the state. Governor Bagudu disclosed that for now there will be no lockdown in the state and people would be allowed to move free. Alright viewers, we're going to a short commercial break, and when we come back, you will hear that Governor Ganduje of Kano State has flagged off the distribution of palliative to the less privileged in the state. Stay tuned. Welcome back. As part of the effort in cushioning the effect of lockdown as Ramadan fasting has commenced, Governor Abdullahi Umar Ganduje of Kano State has flagged off distribution of palliative to the poorest of the poor in the state, as he promised even before the coming of the deadly coronavirus pandemic to the state. The flag-off took place at Maganda Warehouse, Bumpai, Kano, in the metropolis, in the presence of all the members of the State Fundraising Committee on COVID-19, under the chairmanship of Professor Mohammed Yahuza Bello and his partner Tajuddin Aminu Dantata. The governor said this is a very serious time as the state is facing the challenges of COVID-19. It has been 3 weeks now since the state closed its interstate boundaries. The governor said while they are saving lives, the issue of livelihood comes in, especially for those who are living with what they get on a daily basis, by way of strategizing for an effective distribution of the palliative, which includes rice, semovita, dawavita, spaghetti, indomie, cooking oil, among others. The committee plans to make the distribution on polling unit basis for widespread. Professor Bello, the chairman of the committee, disclosed that they are starting with the 8 metropolitan local government of the state. These include Nasarawa, Dala, Gwale, Kumbotso, Fage, Taurani, Unogongo, and municipal local government. And for each of the local governments, they have identified certain numbers of beneficiaries, adding that Nasarawa have 3,122 beneficiaries, Dala have 2,672 beneficiaries, Gwale have 1,800 beneficiaries, Kumbotso have 1,632 beneficiaries, Fage have 2,084 beneficiaries, Tarauni have 1,606 beneficiaries, Yungongo have 1,536 beneficiaries, and in municipal have 2,524 beneficiaries. Governor Ganduje urges the beneficiaries to be orderly while collecting their items without any disrespect to those responsible for the distribution, as traditional leaders and other community leaders who shoulder that responsibility. The governor urged people to observe the protocols of the COVID-19 as provided by health professionals, which include frequent hand washing with soap and running water. Use of hand sanitizer is equally important and necessary. Social distancing must be observed at all times. He also enjoined people to make sure that they respect the lockdown order. Governor Bello Matawalle Marado has extended border closure for another 2 weeks, just as he approved setting up of mobile courts for instant prosecution of offenders. Governor Matawalle equally announced the suspension of this year's Ramadan Tafsir, Tarawih and Itikaf across the state. He made this announcement in a statewide broadcast yesterday, where he said the state government will ensure the enforcement of all these directives for the safety of the Zamfara state citizens. He said what the government is doing is to tend them with international good practices concerning the current pandemic ravaging the globe. He said although no single index case was recorded here in the state, but expressed worries with the development in the neighboring state of Sokoto and Katsina. Governor Matawalle observed that the government cannot afford to be complacent. He warned that any vehicle caught trying to penetrate the state borders or leave the state will be confiscated for good and the owner of the vehicle prosecuted. Governor Matawalle said, however, that people were still free to travel anywhere within the state and conduct their normal businesses. In all this, however, he enjoined the people to observe the best practices of social distancing, use of face masks and hand sanitizers. He said the state government has provided 2 isolation centers and has equipped them and ordered ventilators and rest kits, some of which have already arrived and will be unveiled soon. The governor said the state government has ordered for foodstuff and essential commodities for distribution to citizens to cushion the effect of the present moment as the fasting period commences. The Kebbi state government and an agricultural firm, Machine and Equipment Corporation Africa, on Wednesday in Brenin, Kebbi, signed a memorandum of understanding for the management of 100 tractors under a tractor hiring scheme. The Commissioner for Agriculture and Natural Resources, Barrister Tahiru Machido, signed on behalf of Kebbi state government, while the company's group country director, Ilya, signed on behalf of the firm. Alhaji Machido said the state governor, Abubakar Atiku Bagudu, has approved the submission of the Ministry of Agriculture, recommending the adoption of the scheme by MECA for management of 100 tractors bought by the state government. He explained that the state government had selected a reputable and competent company in order to ensure the success of the scheme. It is aimed at avoiding the costly mistake of the previous administration, which resulted in the collapse of the scheme due to negligent poor management. This is why the state government took time in ensuring that it selects a competent and able management company. He said Maka has a solid background because it is a combination of the private sector, CBN and NISAL, so they have no doubt of their capacity, and that is why the state government decided to have the management with them. Alright viewers, we're going to a short commercial break, and when we come back, Standard Voice Television News continues.
Coronavirus or COVID-19, the most recent outbreak that has turned to be a global pandemic. Watch how it easily and quickly spreads among humans.
That you can save your life and save the lives of many others by keeping yourself and your environment clean. As part of your civic responsibilities, you should help the government to maintain a clean environment in its determined effort to prevent any outbreak of coronavirus COVID-19 in the states. For your own safety, you should ensure regular washing of your hands with soap under running water or use sanitizer. Avoid body contact and avoid big gathering of people. In case you notice any symptoms of coronavirus, like difficulties in breathing, high body temperature, running nose, feverish condition, you should immediately contact any member of the contact committee on the outbreak of coronavirus COVID-19 on the following numbers: 081 65 40 86 96, 081 05 00 988, or 080-6303-5385. A stitch in time, they say, saves life.
This message is from Standard Voice Television, Svtv, Seoul, Zamfara State, Nigeria.
Welcome back on Business. Jemima Samuel has more detail.
Welcome to Business Desk. Oil prices have continued to decline despite huge production cuts of 9.7 million barrels per day by Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, and its allies, the OPEC, which begins on May 1, 2020. Global benchmark Brent crude in early trading yesterday fell below $20 per barrel at $19.12 per barrel, but later rallied to $21.35 a barrel, which was about 17% drop when compared to $25.41 per barrel on Monday. The U.S. benchmark West Texas Intermediate had on Monday fallen below $0 for the first time in history. The falling price of oil, according to analysts, underscores the stark drop in global economic activities caused by the coronavirus pandemic. Despite the plummeting price, more oil cargoes are finding their way to the market. Analysts said nearly 40 million Saudi Arabia barrels are on their way to U.S. shores, adding to the 10 of million already in storage. That delivery is probably going to be the final dagger in the heart of the U.S. shale of oil industry. President Trump said the administration would move swiftly to shore up the U.S. oil industry. He will never let the great U.S. oil and gas industry down, and he instructed the Secretary of Energy and the Secretary of the Treasury to formulate a plan which will make funds available so that these very important companies and jobs will be secured into long-term future. According to analysts, profit-taking and effort to beat May contract for WTI bill to expire Tuesday contributed to forcing holders on the contract to unload their oil at a loss. June WTI contract, which accounts for future oil deliveries, were faring a bit better, selling at around $16. That remains far below the break-even mark for companies and most oil-producing countries. A future contract for U.S. crude price dropped more than 100% and turned negative for the first time in its history on Monday, showing just how much demand and collapse due to the coronavirus pandemic. But traders cautioned that the collapse into negative territory was not reflective of the true reality in beating up oil markets. The price of the nearest oil future contract, which expires Tuesday, detached from later month futures contracts, which continue to trade above $20 per barrel. And that's all we have on Business Desk today. I am Jemima Samuel. Thanks for watching.
And on the international scene, Friday, April 24, 2020 is the first day of the fasting month of Ramadan this year. The Saudi Supreme Court has announced, after receiving testimonies about sighting of the Ramadan crescent on Thursday evening, Ramadan fasting has begun today, the Royal Court said in a statement quoting the Supreme Court. The court held its session on Thursday evening and reviewed the reports received from different courts that showed that many from different regions came up with testimonies of sighting the crescent after sunset. Friday is the first day of Ramadan in all other Gulf states as well as in many Arab and Muslim countries. That has been the news from Standard Voice Television. To end the news, a quick look at the major headlines. The Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs dispatches 3 truckloads of foodstuffs to Zamfara State. Over 40 health workers have been tested positive in Nigeria. Northern and Southwest broadcasting stations threaten to shut down. On business, oil price drops to $21 on lack of demand. And on the international scene, Friday marks the first day of Ramadan. That's the news. On behalf of the production crew and head of News and Current Affairs Department, Alhaji Ibrahim Garubachinawa, I still remain Musa Joy in Stay tuned.